A very warm good day, good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Today we take up a next major skill in language learning, which is listening. This is the first actually of the four major skills of LSRW. So L stands for listening, and S stands for speaking. So the second skill actually is speaking skills. So when we speak, the way we speak, the way we use the visual aids for presentation, that is what we are going to learn in this section in presentation skills. So nowadays, when you speak before an audience, you don't speak offhand, you don't speak just uh, without any help. You actually make use of a computer and a projector, and you may have slides which you project onto the screen. So we use slides to project the information that we have, and we use those slides and then speak. So such tools for speaking, such visual tools for speaking, which helps us to present an idea before the audience. They are called visual aids. So aid means to help. Okay? So something that helps us to make a presentation is called a visual aid. In this chapter, are going to learn about such visual aids which help us to make our presentation easier to understand to the audience. The audience is able to understand, or rather comprehend. Comprehend means to understand. They are able to understand the ideas that we are trying to convey to them when we use such visual aids. So in this chapter, we will learn how to prepare such visual aids. So the most common forms of visual aids are called slides. Sometimes we may call it PPT, which is short for PowerPoint, which is actually a proprietary software of Microsoft. But generally, they are just referred to as slides. That is the visuals that we use for speaking. They are called slides. So this is a very important skill that we need in today's world. So as this the beginning of this chapter says, one of the most important skills required in today's professional world is the ability to make effective presentations. So our presentations have to be very effective. So how can we make effective presentations? So let us, yes, Fatima, Shirin, that is right. LSRW is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So here we are focused on the speaking skills. Okay, that is the second skill. So if you consider these certain terms which are there in the box, there are certain elements which are important when we make a presentation, and there are certain elements which are not important when we make a presentation. So which are the elements that are important, which are the elements which are not important? It is easier to pick up those elements which are actually not important. Okay, which are those things which are not important when we make a presentation? Which is the most not important thing? So that is what we are going to find out. So
Names of
we
the
have some exactly. So name of listener is not important. It is not important. Or it is not also not possible to know the names of the listeners. Suppose there are 100 people who are listening to your talk. It is not possible to know the names of all these people. It is not necessary also. See, even in this class, so I know everybody, but it is not important for me to know the names of each and every person who sitting in this class. So the names of listeners is not important for making a good presentation. Thank you for that response. That is correct. That is a very relevant thing. It is not necessary to know the names of the listeners. Very good. Another thing that is not required. The next thing that is not required is not important.
Special effects.
Exactly, Nandana. It is the special effects are not important because special effects are what are special effects? When you are making a slide, you make the slide animate. ഇങ്ങനെ കറങ്ങി തിരിഞ്ഞൊക്കെ വരുന്ന രീതിയിലൊക്കെ ചില സ്ലൈഡ്സ് ഒക്കെ പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യും. യെസ് ഫാത്തിമ. So that those are called special effects. Special effects may be useful in a movie. സിനിമ കാണിക്കുകയല്ലല്ലോ. We are trying to convey some information. We are trying to pass on certain information. അങ്ങനെയുള്ളപ്പോൾ special effects don't have any importance. If you use special effects, that actually uh, damages the conveying of information. അപ്പോൾ ആളുകളുടെ ഫോക്കസ് മുഴുവൻ ഈ സ്പെഷ്യൽ ഇഫക്ട്സ് ആയി കഴിയുമ്പോൾ അവർ ആ ഐഡിയാസിലുള്ള ശ്രദ്ധ നഷ്ടപ്പെടും. So it is better not to use special effects when you are making a presentation. So special effects may be useful for a movie, but not for an educational presentation. Very good. Okay, another thing that may not be useful, that is not important, is the use of jargon. Okay, so jargon uh, is a new term for you. Jargon means use of specialized terms. For example, if I am in a language and if I am speaking of some common thing in computers, I start talking about data structures and all that. It may not be able to possible for a common man to understand what it is. So jargon are specialized terms used in some specific field. So when I am addressing a common audience, I should avoid jargon. Okay, jargon are specialized terms or scientific terms which common man may not understand. Exactly. Specialized ആയിട്ടുള്ള പദപ്രയോഗങ്ങൾ. So that is called jargon. So we should not use such jargon when we are making a presentation because the common audience may not understand all those things. So instead of using such jargon, we should use simple terms. Okay, instead of using specialized terms, simple language. Okay, so then people will be able to understand what we are talking about. So use of jargon is not important for making a good presentation. And when you are talking about a particular theme, a company's reputation is not very important. It is not important to focus on the company or its reputation. So that is also not important. Okay, so names of listeners is not important. Company's reputation is not important. Use of jargon is also not important. Special effects are also not important. So what is then important? The main thing when you are going to make a presentation, the main thing is the first thing that you should do before
Planning and
you
preparation.
embark. Exactly, Aishwarya. That is exactly what I was typing on. Planning and preparation. തന്നെയാണ് വേണ്ടത്. Yes, Hana, that is right. Planning and preparation. So these are the two things which are the most important things. Whenever, like we go for an exam, you have to plan and prepare. Similarly, when you go for making a presentation, there needs to be a lot of planning and preparation. Yes, Fatima. So there is need for a lot of planning and preparation which has to go in before you make a presentation. Then the important thing is the choice of vocabulary. Vocabulary means the words that you use, the selection of words that you use. That is choice of vocabulary. To use the right word, the simple word, a correct word to make the idea clear to the audience. So choice of vocabulary is important. Okay, then the next important thing is pronunciation. So you have words and then you have pronunciation. Pronunciation is the way you utter certain words. Utterance ആണ് pronunciation. How you utter certain words. If your utterance is not intelligible to people, if people don't understand what you are saying, then you may have to focus on your pronunciation. So pronunciation is also a very important aspect of good presentations. Then comes accent. So there is a slight difference between pronunciation and accent. In Malayalam, if I tell you, pronunciation ഉച്ചാരണവും ആക്സെന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ശൈലിയുമാണ്. ശൈലി, ഭാഷാ ശൈലിയാണ് ആക്സെന്റ്. യെസ് ഫാത്തിമ ശരൺ. ഉച്ചാരണമാണ് പ്രൊനൗൺസിയേഷൻ. ആക്സെന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഭാഷയുടെ ശൈലിയാണ്, പറയുന്ന ശൈലിയാണ് ആക്സെന്റ്. So both are important when we are making a presentation. Pronunciation as well as accent is important. Okay, the next important thing is uh, body language. Okay, body language means the way you stand, the way you use your gestures. Okay, ആംഗ്യങ്ങൾ കാണിക്കുന്നത് അതാണ് gestures. The way you stand, the way you walk. Okay, these are all they all come under body language. To put it very simply, it is a combination of your uh, posture and gestures. Posture means the way you stand and walk. Gesture means the way you use your hands to indicate things. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് രണ്ടും കൂടെ ചേർന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് നമ്മൾ സാധാരണ ബോഡി ലാംഗ്വേജ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. Something related to it is also important, that is called eye contact. So when you are standing before an audience, it is important to look at them. So when you look at them, you are actually giving attention to them, and then there is a better communication. So here we lack these things, especially in such an online communication. It is not very effective as face-to-face communication, basically because there is no eye contact. See, I am not seeing you, you are not seeing me. നമ്മൾ തമ്മിൽ കാണുന്നില്ല. സോ കാണാതെയുള്ള ഒരു സംഭാഷണമാണ്. So when we don't see each other, the effectiveness of communication is much less. എത്രത്തോളം scientific advancement വന്നാലും, unless there is an eye contact, there is a face-to-face interaction, there is a physical contact that has got a lot of influence. Yes, Fatima, thank you for that translation. So the physical presence has got a lot of importance, which cannot be compensated by an online communication. So the major problem of online classes is that there is no eye contact. Okay, these are the important things that we have to take care of when you make our presentation. So we need to plan and prepare. We need to use proper words. Choice of vocabulary is important. Then we should have proper pronunciation, proper accent, then body language, and good eye contact. So these are the important things in presentation when you make a presentation. So there is a task for us. Suppose we are assigned. So the activity 2, it says, imagine you are assigned the task of making a presentation before a group of foreigners who have come to visit your college as part of the cultural exchange program. What would be your first slide? What are the points you would include in it? So let us prepare the first slide. So here, before we this is part of the preparation. Okay, so planning and preparation നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞതിൻ്റെ uh, 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 aspect is beginning now. So how can we plan and prepare? Okay, plan and prepare. So uh, always when you make a beginning slide, presentations നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, when you look at the first slide, what should be there in the first slide?
welcome, പിന്നെ introduction.
Exactly, Aishwarya. Thank you for that. You are actually welcoming the audience to your presentation, and there should be an introduction. Is the title of your presentation should be there. So the first slide that you make, it should have the title of what you are going to present. എന്തിനെ കുറിച്ചാണ് നമ്മൾ പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് എന്നുള്ളത് വേണം. Okay, so that is something that we should include. Okay. Yes, so we have to plan and prepare. Yes, Fatima, thank you for that. So there should be a title for your presentation. ഒരു ടൈറ്റിൽ വേണം. ദെൻ ഫ്രണ്ട് സ്ലൈഡ് ഫസ്റ്റ് സ്ലൈഡിൽ ടൈറ്റിലിൻ്റെ താഴെ വേറെ എന്ത് വേണം? നമ്മുടെ പേര്. യു ക്യാൻ പ്ലീസ്, യെസ്, തലക്കെട്ട്, ശീർഷകം, അത് തന്നെ. So then name of the presenter, that is our name can be included. So first you have the title, then you can have the name of the presenter, that is your name. Below your name you can have the name of your class. For example, first semester computer engineering, name of the class, and below that name of your college. So all these things can be included in the first slide, because as you can see, it is a presentation about your college to a group of foreigners. The photograph of the college can be included in the first slide itself. Either you can put it prominently on top, or you can set it as the background of this page. A very mild background of the photograph of the college in your front slide will create a very good impression upon the audience. So that is this is something that we could do. So we prepare a slide with the title. That is what is the title? The title is about the score. Okay, so that is what we are going to present before the audience. Then the name of the person who is making this presentation, the class of the person who is making the presentation, and the name of the college. So these are the things that we can include in the first slide. Yes, it is mentioned there. There should be a title, okay, the name of the college, name of the presenter, and class. Great. So all those things that we have mentioned has come in the first slide. Then after that, you will make a few more slides. A few more slides could be made, and those slides, what can be included in those slides? We can include some. Exactly, yes, index of topics included in the presentation. Yes, that should also be there in the beginning. Okay, very good. So what are we going to present? That is uh, that should be included in the beginning. Thank you, Aishwarya, for pointing it out. What should the audience expect from the presentation? നമ്മൾ എന്തൊക്കെ കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് പറയാൻ പോകുന്നത് എന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ചൊരു ബ്രീഫ് ഔട്ട്ലൈൻ ഷുഡ് ബി ഗിവൺ ഇൻ ദ ബിഗിനിങ് ഇറ്റ്സെൽഫ്. തുടക്കത്തിൽ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ അത് ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഭാഗം, ഇപ്പോൾ ഈ മെയിൻ സ്ലൈഡ്സിലേക്ക് കടക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് തന്നെ, ആഫ്റ്റർ ദ ടൈറ്റിൽ യു ക്യാൻ ഗിവ് എൻ ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷൻ where you will deal with the major topics that you are going to talk. So all these things can be included in the introduction. Okay. After our introduction on the topics, Exactly. Yes, Fatima has given the Malayalam translation of it. Okay, so that can be included. Then we can include the best practices that we follow in our polytechnic. So we can find out what are the things that we have in our polytechnic, which makes it different from other polytechnics. How does our polytechnic differ from other polytechnics? So we have certain systems where we follow certain systems which make us better than most of the other polytechnics. For example, we may have certain facilities which other institutions may not have. All these things can be listed under best practices. Then we can talk about the clubs that we may have in our polytechnic, like we have a debate club, a literary club, a knowledge club, an adventure club, a nature club, so many different clubs and other statutory clubs like National Service Scheme, NCC, etc. So all these things, women's cell. So all these things can be included under the clubs. So what are the differences that we have and what are their activities? So if you have many clubs, you can actually use two slides or three slides to describe the different clubs that we may have in the college. And when you talk about the different departments that we have three major branches in our polytechnic, that is computer, electronics, and commercial practice. You can give a very brief mention of what these diploma programs are and how many students are there in each of these programs. So that is about our departments. Then you can mention our major achievements, academic achievements, sports achievements, arts achievements, etc. And that can form one slide. So when you have a few slides like this, uh, your presentation will become very rich. There will be a lot of information that are there in the presentation. So once you have done that, when you have finished providing all the details, you have to prepare a concluding slide. So how will you prepare your concluding slide? What are the points that you can include in the concluding slide? How will you prepare a concluding slide? Concluding slide എന്തൊക്കെ വേണം? ലാസ്റ്റ് സ്ലൈഡ് ആണെന്ന് വെച്ചോളൂ. സപ്പോസ് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ദ ലാസ്റ്റ് സ്ലൈഡ്. Very good, Aishwarya. There should be a thanks notes. You should thank the audience. Okay. So you should thank them. We should also sum up what we had talked about. Okay. ഒരു എല്ലാം ഒന്ന് മൊത്തത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞ കാര്യങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച് വളരെ ബ്രീഫായിട്ട് ഒന്ന് സൂചിപ്പിക്കണം. So there should be a summing up. Okay. So as Aishwarya said, thanks should be there. Then summing up should be there. Okay. And also you should ask whether they have some questions. So only then the so when you give them opportunity for questions, then they will, when they ask questions, you understand whether they have understood your presentation. Okay. Sometimes if they have not understood anything, they may ask a lot of questions, or sometimes there may not be any questions at all because they may not have followed anything. So by listening to the questions itself, you understand whether the audience have understood what we try to communicate. So uh, asking the audience to come up with questions is a very important aspect in the conclusion of your presentation. So this is how we prepare the slides. Okay. So now we look at whether our slides have these qualities. Okay, so when you prepare the slides, after preparing the slides, we should check whether the slides that I have prepared, whether these slides have the qualities. These qualities. What are the qualities? Yes, exactly. Yes. So when you sum up, yes, summing up is some very, okay, yes. I have used simple and clear language in my slides. Should we use simple and clear language or should we use complex language? What kind of language should we use in our slides? Simple, yes, Shaina. It is simple language. We should use simple language. Yes, Sandra, Dhanya, Fatima. Thank you for those responses. We should use simple language, very simple language that everybody understands. Should I use, are my sentences very long? Should I use very long sentences?
No point.
Ye- Yes, Aishwarya, that is right. We should not use long sentences. Yes, Andhra, that's correct. We should not use short and point. That's right. That's right. Shayana, Fatima, Sharon, Jyotika. Yes. Thank you for those responses. So we should use very short sentences. Short, short sentences. Have I used too many technical terms in my slides? So these technical terms, that is what we talked about as jargon. ഒരുപാട് ടെക്നിക്കൽ ടേംസ് നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ വാട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻസ് ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് പീപ്പിൾ വിൽ നോട്ട് അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് വാട്ട് യു ആർ ടോക്കിംഗ് അബൌട്ട്. ഞാൻ അവിടെ ഇരുന്നിട്ട് DBMS, ഡേറ്റ സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ദി ഓർഡിനറി പീപ്പിൾ ഹു ആർ കം ഫോർ ദ ലെക്ചർ വിൽ നോട്ട് അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് വാട്ട് ഐ എം സേയിങ്. Computer people may understand, but the others will not understand. So when I am delivering a lecture before a general audience, I should try to avoid such technical terms. So, uh, yes, Aishwarya, we have to use simple terms. Thank you, Tanya, Archana, Anjana, Santosh, Fatima, Sharon, Aparna, PS. Very nice. Thank you for those responses. Okay, very good to see so many people responding. It's very nice to have people responding in the session. Very good. Keep it up. So the next is about fonts. Okay, font is nothing but the letters that we use in our presentation. നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന അക്ഷരങ്ങൾ. Okay, so the kind of fonts that we use, the letters should be the we have to take care about the size and also the shape of the letters. അപ്പം രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണം. When you talk about the font, the size of the font should be large enough for the audience to see because they are not reading from a text. ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ചിലപ്പോൾ ആ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് അടുത്ത് പിടിച്ചാൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ ക്ലിയർ ആയിട്ട് കാണും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ഒരു വെളിച്ചത്തിൽ കൊണ്ടുപോയാൽ കുറച്ച് ക്ലിയർ ആയിട്ട് കാണും. എക്സാക്ട്ലി, വലിപ്പവും ആകൃതിയുമാണ്. And also the color, very good Aishwarya, the color of the font also. So if the color is also very light color, the audience will find it difficult to read from the screen. So they are reading from the screen is much more difficult than reading from a textbook. അതുകൊണ്ട് we have to take care of all these things, the shape and size of the font, their color, and also the background color that we are using. So all these things have to be taken care of when we use fonts. It should be clearly visible and readable. Visible means it should be seen properly. Okay, I have included a lot of information in a slide. So as I said, it should be brief. The information that I provided in the slide should be brief or short. അപ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ ഒരു സ്ലൈഡിൽ ഇട്ടാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ലൈക്ക് എ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്ക്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നോ ലോങ്ങർ എ സ്ലൈഡ്. ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്കിലാണ് അങ്ങനെ ലോങ് സെൻറ്റൻസസ്, കുറേ സെൻറ്റൻസുകൾ എഴുതി വെക്കുന്നത് എന്തിനാണ് എഴുതി വയ്ക്കുക? ടെക്സ്റ്റിലാണ് എഴുതി വയ്ക്കുക. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെ നമ്മളൊരു ടെക്സ്റ്റ് എഴുതി വെച്ചതുപോലെ സ്ലൈഡ്സ് പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്യരുത്. യു ഷുഡ് നോട്ട് പ്രിപ്പയർ സ്ലൈഡ്സ് ആസ് ഇഫ് യു ഹാവ് പ്രിപ്പയർഡ് എ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്ക്. സോ it should be brief. If possible, you should not even write full sentences. It should be written just as points. സ്ലൈഡ്സിലുള്ളതെല്ലാം പോയിന്റ്സ് ആയിട്ടാണ് എഴുതേണ്ടത്. It should not be very long sentences. So I have included a lot of information in a slide എന്നുള്ളതിന് നോ എന്നാണ് പറയേണ്ടത്. We should not include a lot of information in a slide. അപ്പോൾ പിന്നെ ആ ഇൻഫർമേഷനൊക്കെ ആര് കൊടുക്കും? The person who is making the presentation will provide all those information. The slides are just pointers, okay? They are just pointers to help us make the presentation. The slides are just aids or helpers to make the presentation. The information will actually have to be given by the person who is making the presentation. That is, when we make the presentation, we should provide the detailed information. It should not be the duty of the slide to provide the information. The slides should actually have a visual impact, not a reading impact. അപ്പോൾ അതൊരു വായിക്കുന്നൊരു ഫീലായിരിക്കരുത്, ഒരു കാണുന്ന ഫീലാണ് ഓഡിയൻസ് വേണം. കാണുന്ന ഫീല് വരണമെങ്കിൽ എഴുത്ത് കുറവും ചിത്രങ്ങൾ അധികമാണ് വേണ്ടത്. So you can include a lot of pictures, of course relevant pictures, suitable pictures, and a little bit of text, not too much text. Lot of text is not good. So the common rule is for any slide is that there should be minimum text, okay, as less as possible, and only then it becomes enjoyable experience. And what can you include? You can include pictures. How to include pictures? That is the next point. I have included only appropriate pictures. That is, when I am talking about the college, I can include the pictures of the different aspects of college. Yes, very good, Sharmili, Aishwarya, Satyam. Thank you for those responses. We should include only pictures which, yes, Anjana, Santosh, suitable for the occasion. That's right, Fatima. So when I'm making a presentation of the college, I can use pictures of the front of the college, the main buildings picture, computer departments picture, the picture of labs. I can give a picture of the workshop, of the college ground. So many things can be included in presentation. So depending on the topic, the suitable pictures have to be included in the slide. The next important thing is our bars and graphs can be easily understood. So when we have some numbers, some statistics to present before the audience, usually we use some pie diagrams, okay, some pie diagrams or some charts, okay, or etc., to make the ideas more clear to the audience. So such diagrams, charts, graphs, etc., should not actually confuse the audience. They should be easily understood by the audience. So that's what we have to take care when you include these things. So my bars and graphs can be easily understood is yes. So that is the so yes, thank you for those responses, Sharmili, Jilsha, Fatima. Thank you for those responses. We should have very simple appearing graphs and charts. Okay, so let us now move on So now we are going to see some slides, some actual slides, to see how the same kind of slide, but one slide is good, the other slide is not so good. So that is activity 3. Examine the following slides. Which of them will be more effective in a presentation and why? If you look at the first slide, and the same kind of information is there in the second slide, you will find as more effective before an audience. Second, yes, Aishwarya, that is right. Sharmili, Fatima Shirin. Okay, so the second one is more effective. Why is it the second one more effective? Because the first one looks like a textbook and not a slide. അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു പാരഗ്രാഫ് ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്കിൽ ഒരു ടെക്സ്റ്റാണ് നമ്മൾ എഴുതുന്നതെങ്കിൽ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു പാരഗ്രാഫ് എഴുതി വെക്കുന്നത് നല്ലതാണ്. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്ക് മതിയല്ലോ, സ്ലൈഡ് വേണ്ട. But here we are not preparing a textbook, we are preparing a slide. And the format of a slide is that you write only points. You don't write paragraphs in a slide. Paragraphs should be completely avoided from the slide. Yes, it should be clear points. So if you look at the second slide, it has very clear points. The points are very clearly presented in the second slide. So that is why the second slide is more appealing. It is easy to read, it is easy to understand because there are no long sentences in the second slide. So that is why we prefer the second slide. So the first slide is not suitable because it is a very long paragraph. So look at the next set of slides. Which is the better one, first one or second one? First one. First slide is perfect. Thank you, Nandana, Anjana, Aishwarya, Adhanya, Aparna, Aisha, Timasharan, Bhavana, Vinisha, Sharmili, Shilpa, PS. It is the first slide. Why is the first slide more effective? Here the focus is on the very good, Nandana. It is readable fonts. The fonts that we use should be readable. The first slide, the fonts are readable. So if you look at the fonts in the second slide, there are problems, okay, of clarity, as Sandra has written there. It is not clear in the second slide. So state of clarity is not present in the second slide. So it should be this. If you look at that, there is not only the problem is there with the first point in or the heading is the shape of the font. So the size and shape should be carefully observed when we use any font. So the shape of the font is not good in the heading of the second slide. So the style of font is not suitable for a presentation. അപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനത്തെ ഫാൻസി ഫോൺസ്, ഒരു ഫാൻസി ഫോണ്ടാണ് അവിടെ യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഫാൻസി ഫോൺസ് ഒരിക്കലും ഉപയോഗിക്കരുത് എന്നല്ല. Fancy fonts may not be suitable for presentations. It may be suitable for some titles in a book or in a notice or in a poster or a brochure or a card, etc. Fancy fonts are suitable, but when you make use of fancy fonts in a presentation, it may be difficult for the reader to read because he or she is sitting at some distance from the screen and they may not be able to understand. Yes, they may not be able to understand what you are talking about. Yes, greeting cards also. Yes, Sharmili, that is right. Fancy fonts can be used also in greeting cards. അതിലൊക്കെ നല്ലതാണ്. പക്ഷേ ഒരു സ്ക്രീനിൽ പ്രസൻറ്റേഷന് ഫാൻസി ഫോൺസ് സ്യൂട്ടബിൾ അല്ല. Then in the second slide, if you look at the first point, പോയിന്റ് വായിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ വല്ല ഭൂതക്കണ്ണാടി വെച്ച് നോക്കണം, അല്ലാതെ ഒന്നും വായിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അതൊരു സ്ക്രീനിൽ കണ്ടു കഴിയുമ്പോൾ ദ പേഴ്സൺ വിൽ നോട്ട് ബി ഏബിൾ ടു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് വാട്ട് ഇസ് ഹാപ്പനിങ്. ഇപ്പോൾ ഫോണ്ടിൻ്റെ സൈസ് എത്രത്തോളം വേണമെന്നുള്ളത് വി ഷുഡ് ആക്ച്വലി ചെക്ക് the size of the font before you use it for a presentation. So it should be large enough for the audience to read. That is right, Sharmili. Size of a font should be quite large. It should not be very small. If it is small, the audience will not be able to read. So that is the problem. First, yes, Fatima, the size of font. The first point, the size of font is very less. In the second font, in the second point of the second slide, it is written in all capitals. Okay, all capitals is not advisable when you are writing. It is used only for some rare occasions. All capitals വളരെ rare ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒക്കേഷൻസിലാണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുക. എല്ലാം ക്യാപിറ്റൽ ലെറ്റേഴ്സിൽ എഴുതിയാൽ the problem is there are two problems. One problem is that it is difficult to read. Okay, if I type everything in capitals, it is difficult to read. നമ്മളിത് എഴുതി തന്നെ നോക്കി അറിയാൻ പറ്റും. സ്മോൾ ലെറ്റേഴ്സിൽ എഴുതുന്നതും ക്യാപിറ്റൽ ലെറ്റേഴ്സിൽ എഴുതുന്നതും എല്ലാം ക്യാപിറ്റൽസിലാണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് മച്ച് മോർ ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട് ടു റീഡ്. ഒന്നോ രണ്ടോ വാക്ക് വായിക്കാൻ പറ്റുമായിരിക്കും, പക്ഷേ മൊത്തം പേജ് ഫുള്ള് ക്യാപിറ്റലിലാണ് എഴുതിയിട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് വെരി ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട് ടു റീഡ്. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് വൺ റീസൺ. അനദർ റീസൺ ഈസ് ദാറ്റ് writing in all capitals is equivalent to shouting. Okay? Okay. Yes, Fatima. So it is as good as shouting to somebody. നമ്മൾ മൊത്തം ക്യാപിറ്റൽസിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും എഴുതി വെക്കുന്നത് മറ്റുള്ള ഒരാളോട് ഷൗട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് തുല്യമാണ്. സോ ദാറ്റ്ഫോർ ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് അഡ്വൈസ്ഡ് ടു യൂസ് all capitals. So capital letters should be used only sparingly. It has a certain uses. It is used for writing headings. Yes, it can be used for beginning of a sentence. We use capital letters. Headings, titles use ചെയ്യാം. അതുപോലെ ചില സ്ഥലങ്ങളിലൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം. Even subtitles also we can use. We can use it when you're giving abbreviations, when you are beginning a sentence, when you begin the proper names of places, people, etc. So there are certain uses for capital letters, but everything is written in capital letters, then it is very difficult to read and understand. So that is about the second point of the second slide. Third point of the second slide is that they have again used fancy fonts. So fancy fonts is not suitable. So they should be avoided. There is another set of slides below. This is about pictures. Look at the title of the slide. The title of the slide is Science and Technology. So which slide is pictures? You look at the pictures. Which slide is better? സ്ലൈഡ് ക്ലിയർ ആയിട്ട് കാണണം, നോക്കണം. അത് ഫസ്റ്റ് സ്ലൈഡ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഫസ്റ്റ് സ്ലൈഡിലുള്ള പിക്ചേഴ്സ് എന്തൊക്കെയാന്ന് നോക്കണം. We have said that the picture should be appropriate. Okay. ഫസ്റ്റും സെക്കൻഡും എല്ലാവരും പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. Thank you for those responses. Very good. Responding is more important. Okay. Thank you for the responses. Archana, Sandra, Sanju, Krishna, Fatima, Varna, Nandana, Aishwarya, Satyan, Danya, Nandana, KP, and Anjana, Santosh. Okay, so Alina, yes. Yes, first is clear, second is good. Thank you, Sharmili. അതിൽ ഫസ്റ്റിലുള്ള ഒരു പ്രോബ്ലം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അതിലുള്ള ഫസ്റ്റ് പിക്ചറാണ്. നമ്മൾ സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഡയറക്റ്റായിട്ട് സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജിയായിട്ട് ബന്ധമില്ലാത്തൊരു പിക്ചറാണ് ഫസ്റ്റ് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. പിക്ചർ ചിലപ്പോൾ ക്ലിയർ ആണോ എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. ഫസ്റ്റ് പിക്ചറിൽ കാണുന്നത് കുറച്ച് ഫ്രൂട്ട്സ്, വെജിറ്റബിൾസ്, ജ്യൂസ്, മിൽക്ക്, അങ്ങനത്തെ സാധനങ്ങളൊക്കെയാണ്. വിച്ച് കണ്ടെയ്ൻസ് മോർ ഓഫ് ഫുഡ് ഐറ്റംസ് ദാൻ ഓഫ് എനി സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ ആദ്യത്തെ ഇമേജ് തന്നെ അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് എ സ്യൂട്ടബിൾ ഇമേജ് ഫോർ ദ ടൈറ്റിൽ. Okay, so we should use appropriate pictures. So it is not a suitable image. Therefore, that is not a good slide. ഉചിതമായത്, exactly appropriate എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഉചിതമായതാണ് ഫാത്തിമ. So the second slide is much better than the first one. Next is about the graphs that you are using in presentation. Which slide is better? Exactly, Danya, Nandana, Anjana, Sharmali. Second slide is better. Fatima, Vinisha, Aishwarya. Yes, so many people are responding. Sanju, Krishna, Shilpa, Aparna, Archana, Shivakumar, Aditya, Sandra, Aishwarya, Satyan, Vinisha. Yes, the second slide is very clear. In fact, the first slide is actually confusing. Why do we make a presentation? We make a presentation so that our audience understand more about the topic. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഒരു പ്രസൻറ്റേഷൻ നടത്തിയിട്ട് അവർക്ക് ഉള്ളതിനേക്കാളും കൂടുതൽ കൺഫ്യൂഷനായിട്ട് തിരിച്ചു പോയാൽ our presentation is ineffective. So this slide, instead of giving information, is actually causing confusion to the audience. So that is not the purpose of making a presentation. So our presentation should not confuse the audience. So the first slide is actually very, very confusing. It doesn't actually convey anything at all. And you don't understand what is happening there. Second slide is very simple and it very clearly demonstrates the reduction in the amount of obesity. Whatever it is, we don't know, but the idea is very clearly conveyed through the second slide. So this is the way in which we should present bars and graphs. So bars and graphs should be clearly understood by the audience. You can't even read what is there in the first slide. Okay. So now we move on to the actual presentation. So when you make a presentation before an audience, the major things are the introduction. Okay, so as we discussed in the beginning, we greet. The introduction consists of things. We welcome the audience. So first slide we greet the audience, you welcome the audience. Then we introduce the subject. So there will be the title. The title slide there will be introducing the title. Then you give an outline of the structure of the presentation. What are you going to present? And in the beginning also you give instructions about questions. So sometimes you may want them to ask you questions in the beginning. Sometimes you prefer to take questions at the end. Tell it in the beginning itself. Class in the yes. Yes. So sometimes people will want to take questions in the beginning. Sometimes you don't want questions in between because it may interrupt the flow of your presentation. But sometimes you want people to ask questions. So make it very clear in the beginning. When are you going to take the questions? Make it very clear to the audience in the beginning itself. Okay, so here you can find all these three language functions here for introductions. This is greeting. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen is greeting, and hello everyone is also greeting. Then the outline of the presentation is given like this. I'm going to talk about and also the purpose of my presentation is. These two are phrases which we can use to talk about the outline of your presentation. And the third major aspect in an introduction is to talk about the questions. So if you want people to ask you questions in between the presentation, you can use this phrase, that is, do feel to interrupt me. Or if you don't want them to ask you questions in between, you can tell them that I will answer questions after the presentation. So you have to make the choice whether you want to have the presentations in the beginning, or in between, or at the end. So that is a choice, but make it very clear in the introduction. So introduction contains these three things. One is greeting. Okay. The second is the outline of the presentation, and third is the uh, regarding questions. Okay. These are the three aspects you will find in the introduction. These are the three things which we have to include in a introduction. എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് മൂന്ന് കാര്യങ്ങൾ? About first is greeting the audience, then giving an outline of the presentation, and yes, rubrika outline on the rubrika, and you mention about the questions. So these are the three things in the introduction. Then, so those are the possible language functions which we have to. You can write it in the box. You can from these and write here in the box. Okay. And there is a sample introduction in activity 5. This is a presentation about the Indian space research, and here the speaker is giving an introduction of the presentation that she is making about the Indian space research. And there are some connecting words which are given here, which we can yes, that's right. Okay. So here there are some connecting words which are given here, which we can make use of to fill up the blanks. This is an exercise which you can do on your own. For example, the beginning, when you begin a presentation, the connecting word that we use will be first. First എന്നുള്ള connecting word ആയിരിക്കും നമ്മൾ use. So first we will have a quick look at the major scientists of India and their conversation. Similarly, when you end a presentation, the connecting word that you use in the concluding sentence would be yes. In the end, okay, in between we will use then. Okay, then we can discuss എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് അടുത്തത്. So I think we will maybe you can do it by yourself. So then എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ ഇതിന് then after that എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതൊക്കെ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം നമുക്ക്. ലാസ്റ്റ് വരുമ്പോൾ അവസാനം വന്നു കഴിയുമ്പോൾ ഡാഷ് വി വിൽ ഹാവ് ആൻ ഇൻട്രാക്റ്റീവ് സെഷൻ കൊടുത്ത് യെസ് അപർണ ഫൈനലി എന്നാണ് നമ്മൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുക. സോ ഫസ്റ്റ്, പിന്നെ ദെൻ, പിന്നെ ലാസ്റ്റ് വരുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഫൈനലി എന്നുള്ളത് യൂസ് ചെയ്യും. So I think this is an exercise which you can do by yourself. Now we come to the conclusion of a presentation. So when you make a conclusion, the introduction has 3 parts. Conclusion also has 3 parts. Okay. Conclusionലുള്ള 3 parts എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, first one is you actually give a summing up of the presentation. എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് പറഞ്ഞ പ്രധാന കാര്യങ്ങൾ എന്നുള്ളത് വീണ്ടും ഒന്ന് നമ്മൾ ഔട്ട്ലൈനിൽ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് പറയുന്നതെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പോലെ, that is called an outline in an introduction. In a conclusion, we again give a brief summary of what you talk about. Summing up means a summary of what you discussed. Okay. Then you ask whether they have any questions. You can ask them whether they have any questions, and that is the second thing. And then you should thank the audience for listening to your presentation. So these are the things. These are the 3 things that are there in the conclusion. Like the introduction has 3 major aspects. The conclusion has these 3 major aspects of summing up, questions, and thanking the audience. So these are the phrases which we can use for summing up. Let me recap. Recall, tell again. Recap means to say again, to tell again. അതാണ് recap. വീണ്ടും പറയാ, ആവർത്തിക്കുക, അതാണ് recap. So and another summing up activity is to say conclude. So these are the 2 phrases that you can use for summing up. Then you can ask them whether they have any questions. Are there any questions? Or you can ask them queries or clarifications. Okay, and then we thank them. Many thanks for your attention, and I am immensely grateful to you. So this is how we thank. So yes, thank you, Fatima. So these are the three major aspects of conclusion, that is summing up, questions, and thanking. So all these three aspects we can write in which are the possible languages എന്നുള്ളത് അവിടെ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്, അതെടുത്ത് ഇവിടെ എഴുതാൻ പറ്റും. So when you make your presentation, you have to remember these key points. Is our body language. Body language includes our posture and our gestures. So what is body language? You have to be very careful about. The body is speaking to your audience even before you open your mouth. So what are the different things that you have to take care of? The way, the clothes that we wear, the way you walk, your glasses, your haircut, your expression, everything is important. Yes, so the visuals should be visible. So when you are using slides, these slides should be very clear before the audience. So the font, the color of the font, the background, the pictures, everything should be very clear to the audience. And this is a very important thing. We should not read the presentation by looking at the slides. Slide കൊടുത്തിട്ടില്ല അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ വായിക്കാനല്ല അവിടെ നമ്മളുള്ളത്. We are there to explain what is there on the slide. സ്ലൈഡിൽ വായിക്കാനുള്ളത് അവർക്ക് വായിക്കാൻ പറ്റും, ഓഡിയൻസ് വായിച്ചോളും. നമ്മളത് വെറുതെ നിന്ന് വായിക്കലല്ല നമ്മുടെ ജോലി. We are there to explain what is there on the slide. A detailed explanation of what is written on the slide is done by the presenter. So never read the presentation by looking at the slides. And we should have an eye contact with the audience and not with the slides. Slides അല്ല നമ്മൾ നോക്കേണ്ടത്. We should be looking at the audience. Slides നോക്കാം, but our focus should be on the audience. And when you are asked questions, we should be very polite. If you have some difficult question, or if you don't know the answer to any particular question, tell the audience that you don't know the answer. Don't get into a fight with the audience. And when we speak, you can, depending upon the situation, you can increase or decrease the speed so that the audience will be very attentive to you. Okay, and also the tone and the volume are also very important. The tone at which we talk to the audience, and the volume, the sound which we talk to the audience should be that you get the attention of the audience. So to get the attention of the audience, you can modify your voice, your intonation, the speed, etc. So these are the things that we have to take care of when you make a presentation. So these three things are all related to the voice: speed, intonation, volume. എന്നുള്ള ഈ മൂന്ന് കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മുടെ വോയിസിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്. So the voice is a very important aspect. We have to train ourselves to speak in the proper tone, the proper speed, as well as the proper volume. So that's it about presentation. We will take up the next skill of writing in the next class. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.